Globalization and the World Trade Organization WTO. Introduction. Globalization is a multifaceted phenomenon that refers to the increasing interconnectedness and interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations, driven by international trade, investment, technology, and the movement of people and ideas. Over the past few decades, globalization has accelerated due to technological advancements, lower transportation costs, and the reduction of trade barriers, fostering the growth of global trade and investment. Central to this process of globalization is the World Trade Organization WTO, the primary international organization responsible for regulating and facilitating trade between nations. Established in 1995, the WTO plays a crucial role in shaping the rules and norms that govern international trade, helping to reduce barriers, resolve disputes, and promote global economic integration. This article explores the relationship between globalization and the WTO, highlighting the role the organization plays in promoting global trade, addressing its impact on economic development, and analyzing the challenges and controversies surrounding its role in the era of globalization. 1. The role of the WTO in globalization. The WTO is a key architect of the rules that guide globalization, particularly in the realm of international trade. Its primary mission is to facilitate smooth, predictable, and free trade between its member nations, which comprise 164 countries accounting for over 98% of world trade. Liberalization of trade. One of the main functions of the WTO is to promote the liberalization of trade, which is a cornerstone of globalization. Trade liberalization refers to the reduction or elimination of trade barriers, such as tariffs, quotas, and non-tariff barriers. Items that restrict the free flow of goods and services across borders. Multilateral trade agreements. The WTO facilitates multilateral trade negotiations, where member countries negotiate agreements to reduce trade barriers in various sectors. These negotiations are aimed at creating a more open and equitable global trading system. The success of previous rounds of negotiations, like the Uruguay round, led to substantial reductions in tariffs and the liberalization of trade in agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Non-discrimination. The WTO upholds the principles of most favored nation (MFN) and national treatment to ensure that countries do not discriminate between trading partners or between domestic and foreign products. These principles promote a level playing field in global trade, contributing to the expansion of trade under globalization. Access to markets. By lowering tariffs and reducing natives, the WTO creates greater access to international markets for goods and services from all countries. This leads to the integration of national economies into the global market, fostering competition, innovation, and growth. B. Dispute settlement and enforcement of trade rules. The WTO's dispute settlement mechanism (DSM) plays a critical role in ensuring that the rules of global trade are followed. As globalization increases the volume and complexity of trade, the likelihood of disputes between trading nations also rises. The WTO's dispute resolution system helps prevent trade conflicts from escalating into broader economic or political tensions. Dispute settlement. When trade disputes arise between member countries, the WTO provides a structured and legally binding process to resolve these disputes. The dispute settlement body (DSB) can establish panels, hear appeals, and authorize retaliatory measures if a country does not comply with WTO rulings. This system ensures that trade rules are enforced and provides stability to the global trading system. Enforcement by providing a forum for dispute resolution. The WTO reinforces trust in the global trading system, ensuring that countries adhere to their trade commitments. This helps foster predictability and stability, which are essential for businesses and investors in a globalized economy. C. Promoting trade in services and intellectual property. Globalization is not only about the exchange of goods, but also services and intellectual property, both of which have become critical components of modern trade. The WTO has expanded its reach to include these areas through agreements, such as the General Agreement on Trade in Services, GATS, and the Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights TRIPS. Services. The globalization of services such as banking, insurance, telecommunications, and IT has been facilitated by the WTO's GATS, which aims to reduce barriers to trade in services, as services account for an increasing share of global GDP. Their inclusion in trade agreements is essential to the modern global economy. Intellectual property rights IPR, the WTO's TRIPS agreement is vital in the globalization of intellectual property. It sets minimum standards for the protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights across member countries. By doing so, it facilitates the global spread of innovation and technology, while ensuring that creators and inventors are compensated for their contributions. 2. Globalization, economic development, and the WTO. The expansion of trade facilitated by globalization has led to economic growth in many parts of the world, lifting millions out of poverty and creating new opportunities for development. However, globalization's impacts have been uneven, leading to criticisms of the WTO's role in addressing development issues. Globalization and economic growth. The WTO's promotion of trade liberalization has contributed significantly to global economic growth by opening up new markets and encouraging the efficient allocation of resources. Developed countries' advanced economies have benefited from expanded markets for their goods, services, and capital. The removal of trade barriers has allowed them to outsource production to lower-cost regions, leading to lower prices for consumers and higher profits for corporations. Developing countries. Many developing countries have also reaped benefits from globalization. Countries such as China, India, and Vietnam have seen rapid economic growth due to increased participation in international trade. These countries have become integral parts of global supply chains, providing manufacturing, agricultural products, and services to global markets. This integration has led to significant poverty reduction, improved infrastructure, and higher living standards. B. Challenges for developing and least developed countries. Despite the opportunities presented by globalization, many developing countries and least developed countries face significant challenges in fully benefiting from the global trading system. Unequal gains. While some developing countries have experienced rapid economic growth, others, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Latin America, have struggled to integrate into the global economy. These countries often face structural barriers such as weak infrastructure, lack of access to finance, and low levels of technological development, limiting their ability to compete in global markets. Agricultural trade barriers. One of the major complaints of developing countries is the continued presence of agricultural subsidies and trade barriers in developed countries. These subsidies distort global markets and make it difficult for farmers in developing nations to compete. The failure of the WTO to make progress on reducing agricultural protectionism in developed countries, particularly during the Doha Development Agenda (DDA) negotiations, has been a major source of frustration for developing nations. Lack of policy space. Developing countries often argue that the WTO's rules limit their ability to pursue policies that protect their nascent industries or promote economic diversification. They claim that developed countries had the policy space to use tariffs, subsidies, and other measures during their own industrialization processes, but are now preventing developing countries from doing the same under the WTO's rules. See? Special and Differential Treatment (SDT). To address the challenges faced by developing countries, the WTO includes provisions for special and differential treatment (SDT). These provisions are designed to give developing countries greater flexibility in implementing WTO agreements, providing them with longer transition periods and technical assistance to help them integrate into the global trading system. Effectiveness of SDT. While SDT provisions aim to level the playing field, many developing countries argue that they are insufficient and too vaguely defined. They call for more concrete measures, such as greater access to developed markets, reductions in agricultural subsidies, and more technical assistance to build capacity for trade. 3. Challenges and criticisms of the WTO in the context of globalization. While the WTO has been a critical player in advancing globalization and international trade, it faces significant challenges and criticisms regarding its role in ensuring equitable and sustainable trade practices. These challenges raise questions about the future of the WTO in an increasingly complex and interconnected global economy. Erosion of multilateralism. The rise of bilateral and regional trade agreements (RTAs) has led to concerns that the WTO's role in governing global trade is being undermined. Major trade agreements, such as the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP) and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP), have emerged outside of the WTO framework, creating parallel systems of trade rules. Fragmentation of the trading system. The proliferation of RTAs could fragment the global trading system,